Okay, so I'll try to explain how a low poly baked model works. I'll use this simple model I did in SketchUp using SubD, Face tools and stuff, and then textured it in Substance Painter, and you can see how the model properly reacts to light. uh, and not only it reacts to light, but it also has all these procedural effects based on the wrinkles of the model, the skin details and such. And you can see the the fine wrinkle details are actually textured in Substance. If I turn this off, you can see the main wrinkles looks like they are modeled. Well, actually they aren't, because the model is really simple. And not only you can use procedural details, you can also use this for particle brushes. See how the particles follows the wrinkles. Maybe you can see even better here. See what happens. That's amazing, but you know, there's no geometrical detail at all. This is all low poly. So what's going on here? And just look at this. If I turn off this layer, I turn off the wireframe. uh, See how this model looks like without ambient occlusion, and you can see just a bit of a difference, but mainly the detail comes from the normal map. If I turn off the normal map, this is what you have. A really simple low poly model. And let me undo this, and you can see the detail popping out from this baked normal map, which is this one. So what happens here? You can see this is the original model. I smoothed the quads, but this is a quad model. And what you have to do basically in most cases is to unwrap this, because you need unique texturing. So I generally do this. I smooth my quads and then unsmooth only the the loops I can use with the wrapper to unwrap the various UV island. And if you see, the final model in wrapper is this one, and you need to have an unwrapped texture because you don't want to overlap. You need each pixel to represent a unique place on the mesh to paint on it, to bake details. Once the model is unwrapped, I sent this to SculptGL, which is a software which allows you to sculpt fine details with the various tools and techniques. You can totally do this in Blender or ZBrush or another software. I just use this free software, which is amazing. And if you see what happens here, this is actual geometry. This is a pretty high poly model. You can see this is near 1 million vertices, whereas the original model is only 14k vertices. It's really low poly. And how it's possible to reuse the detail. You can see the topology is pretty much the same, only with a large number of subdivision. But if you put it to two iteration, you can see this is exactly the same model I got in SketchUp. So what I do is to use this low poly model and bake on it the details coming from the really high poly model. So you here have all of your physical wrinkles, and you can simply use these. In this way you got this option in Substance, but you can totally do this with other softwares. Um, and you bake the mesh maps, and these are the baked maps. And here you can see the iPoly model. This one is the model from SculptGel, which is used for the baking. So you are telling Substance to project all the detail from this mesh onto the low poly one. Once you have done, you have not only normal and ambient occlusion, you also got other nice maps like curvature, position, world space normals, and other stuff, which are pretty useful to drive procedural effects, or as you can see, the particle brushes, which follows along the wrinkles and the skin details and such. So I believe this is pretty amazing. This is only an overview of this process, but you can find plenty of resources on the internet and YouTube to better understand what baking is and how it works, and how to implement it in different applications. But the basic principles are those. You just got a low poly model, and you bake, you project all the details from the poly, and then you can work with these really simple models, but this kind of model reacts perfectly to the light, to all the PBR stuff. So I hope this was useful, and see you next time.